Imagine a figure so colossal it dwarfs the GDP of entire nations, $75.49 trillion. That's the estimated combined value of every apartment building, suburban home, gleaming skyscraper and strip mall across the United States. This astronomical sum represents more than just bricks and mortar. It's a testament to the historical forces, cultural aspirations and economic engines that have shaped the American landscape. From the earliest colonial settlements to today's sprawling metropolises, real estate has been the bedrock of the American dream, a tangible manifestation of ambition, security, and prosperity. But this immense wealth wasn't built overnight. It's the culmination of centuries of expansion, innovation, and at times, speculation. The story of American real estate is a tapestry woven with threads of opportunity and risk, boom and bust, dreams realized and fortunes lost. It's a story deeply intertwined with the nation's own narrative, reflecting periods of remarkable growth, devastating hardship, and ultimately, an enduring resilience. In the early days of American history, land was more than just a commodity. It was the lifeblood of a fledgling nation. For the first settlers, land represented freedom, opportunity, and the chance to build a new life. The vast, untamed wilderness held the promise of riches for those willing to work the soil, establish communities, and tame the frontier. Land ownership was the cornerstone of this new society, a tangible measure of success and security in a world fraught with uncertainty. As the nation grew, so too did its appetite for land. Westward expansion fueled a seemingly insatiable demand for property, driven by the allure of fertile farmland, the discovery of mineral wealth, and the ambition of a nation eager to claim its destiny. The Homestead Act of 1862, which granted 160 acres of public land to any citizen willing to settle and farm it, stands as a testament to this era of unbridled expansion. This relentless drive to acquire and develop land had a profound impact on the nascent real estate market. Land speculation became rampant, with speculators buying up vast tracts of land, hoping to profit from the inevitable rise in value. Towns sprung up overnight, fueled by rumors of gold strikes, railroad construction, or simply the promise of a better life. The landscape of America was being redrawn at a breakneck pace, and with each new settlement, the value of American soil continued to climb. But this period of unfettered growth wasn't without its consequences. The displacement of Native American tribes, environmental degradation, and the growing pains of a nation struggling to define itself were all part of the complex legacy of America's early real estate boom. As America transitioned from an agrarian society to an industrial powerhouse, the nature of real estate underwent a fundamental shift. The rise of factories and urban centers drew millions of Americans from rural communities to cities, seeking employment and a piece of the burgeoning prosperity. With this mass migration, the focus of real estate investment shifted from sprawling farmland to densely populated urban cores. The Industrial Revolution brought with it new forms of transportation, communication, and technology, each of which left its mark on the real estate market. Railroads connected distant corners of the country, opening up new territories for development, and fueling a surge in land values along their routes. The invention of the elevator allowed buildings to climb higher, maximizing the use of limited urban space, and giving rise to the iconic skyscrapers that would come to define the American skyline. But perhaps the most significant development of this era was the emergence of the American suburb. Fueled by the affordability of the automobile and a desire for more space and a sense of community, Americans began to flock to the outskirts of cities, creating vast new housing developments that would forever alter the landscape of the nation. The suburban home, with its white picket fence and manicured lawn, became synonymous with the American dream, representing a tangible symbol of middle-class aspiration and achievement. This intertwining of real estate with the American dream would come to define the nation's relationship with property for generations to come. Owning a home wasn't just about acquiring an asset. It was about securing a future, building a legacy, and participating in the collective promise of America. This deeply ingrained cultural belief would fuel decades of growth in the housing market, shaping government policies, driving consumer behavior, and ultimately laying the foundation for the colossal real estate landscape we see today. In the nascent days of colonial America, land wasn't merely a commodity, it was the lifeblood of survival, prosperity, and power. For those who dared to cross the Atlantic, seeking a new life free from the constraints of Europe, land represented the ultimate form of wealth and opportunity. It held the promise of self-sufficiency, the potential for agricultural riches, and the chance to build a new society from the ground up. Unlike the rigid social hierarchies of Europe, where land ownership was often reserved for the elite, colonial America offered the tantalizing prospect of land ownership to a wider swath of society. Indentured servants, after years of toil, could earn their freedom and a small plot of land, while ambitious entrepreneurs saw vast tracts of wilderness as a blank canvas upon which to paint their fortunes. Land, in essence, became the ultimate currency of the colonial era, a tangible measure of success, and a source of both individual ambition and societal tension. This insatiable hunger for land, however, came at a steep price. The indigenous populations, who had called this land home for centuries, were increasingly displaced as European settlers pushed westward, claiming ownership over territories that had long been inhabited and stewarded by Native American tribes. Treaties were signed and broken, battles were fought, and the landscape of America was irrevocably altered as the relentless pursuit of land fueled both progress and conflict. Yet, amidst the complexities of colonial expansion and the moral dilemmas it posed, one thing remained clear: land was the foundation upon which the American experiment would be built. It was the source of both immense wealth and bitter disputes, a driving force behind economic development and social upheaval. The very notion of what it meant to be American was being shaped by the relationship between settlers and the land they sought to tame, a relationship marked by both opportunity and exploitation that would cast a long shadow over the nation's future. The allure of vast, fertile land, seemingly ripe for the taking, drew waves of European settlers to the shores of North America. Colonial powers, eager to expand their empires and exploit the riches of the New World, granted charters and land grants to individuals and companies, fueling a frenzy of land acquisition and development that would forever change the face of the continent. From the tobacco plantations of Virginia to the bustling port cities of New England, colonial settlements sprung up along the Atlantic coast, each one a testament to the transformative power of land ownership. Forests were cleared, fields were plowed, and communities took root, transforming the wilderness into a patchwork of farms, villages, and burgeoning towns. The promise of land ownership, once a distant dream for many Europeans, was becoming a tangible reality in the colonies, albeit one built on the backs of indentured servants and the displacement of Native Americans. This period of rapid expansion, however, was not without its challenges. Disputes over land titles, boundary lines, and ownership rights were common, often escalating into legal battles or even violent conflicts. The colonial government, struggling to maintain order and control over the ever-expanding frontier, implemented various land distribution systems, ranging from lotteries to head rights systems, each with its own set of advantages and drawbacks. Despite the inherent risks and uncertainties of colonial life, the allure of land ownership proved irresistible for many. Land represented not only economic opportunity, but also social standing and political influence. As the colonies matured and the seeds of self-governance were sown, land ownership became increasingly intertwined with the right to vote, hold office, and shape the destiny of the emerging nation. The very foundations of American democracy were being laid on the bedrock of land ownership, a concept that would have profound implications for the nation's future. The year is 1862. The United States, embroiled in a bloody civil war, takes a monumental step that will forever alter the nation's landscape and shape its destiny. The Homestead Act is signed into law. This landmark legislation, a beacon of hope amidst the turmoil of war, promises 160 acres of free land to any citizen or aspiring citizen willing to settle and farm it for a period of 5 years. The Homestead Act, a testament to the enduring belief in the transformative power of land ownership, ignited a mass migration westward as waves of settlers, fueled by dreams of prosperity and a fresh start, set out to claim their piece of the American dream. From seasoned farmers seeking fertile soil to freed slaves yearning for opportunity, The Homestead Act beckoned a diverse tapestry of individuals and families to the vast, untamed territories west of the Mississippi River. The journey westward was fraught with hardship and uncertainty. Settlers faced grueling journeys across vast distances, often in harsh weather conditions and with limited supplies. The land itself, while fertile, was unforgiving, demanding back-breaking labor and resilience in the face of droughts, floods, and the ever-present threat of conflict with Native American tribes who rightfully saw their ancestral lands being encroached upon. Yet, despite the challenges, the Homestead Act succeeded in its ambitious goal of settling the American West. Millions of acres of land were claimed and transformed from wilderness into farms, ranches, and communities. The Homestead Act, a testament to the enduring allure of land ownership and the spirit of American ambition, played a pivotal role in shaping the nation's identity, expanding its borders, and solidifying the concept of land as the cornerstone of American prosperity. As the tide of westward expansion swept across the nation, a new breed of entrepreneur emerged, the land speculator. These shrewd businessmen, recognizing the immense potential wealth tied to land ownership, sought to capitalize on the nation's insatiable hunger for property. Armed with maps, capital, and a keen eye for opportunity, they set out to acquire vast tracts of land, hoping to profit from the inevitable rise in value as settlers flocked westward. Land speculation, while often portrayed as a risky venture, could be incredibly lucrative. Speculators purchased land from the government, railroad companies, or even individual settlers, often at low prices, and then subdivided and resold it at a significant markup. They advertised the promise of fertile farmland, bustling towns, and access to transportation routes, luring eager buyers with visions of prosperity and a chance to stake their claim in the burgeoning West. The rise of land speculation, while undeniably contributing to the rapid development of the West, also had its downsides. Speculators often inflated land prices, creating speculative bubbles that inevitably burst, leaving unsuspecting buyers with worthless land and shattered dreams. Towns, once touted as future metropolises, sometimes remained mere dots on a map, their promised prosperity failing to materialize. Despite the inherent risks and occasional scams, land speculation played a significant role in shaping the American real estate market. It fueled the rapid transfer of land from the government to private ownership, spurred the development of transportation infrastructure, and contributed to the growth of towns and cities across the West. The legacy of land speculation, with its mix of boldness, greed, and genuine vision, remains etched in the annals of American real estate, a testament to the enduring allure of land as a path to wealth and the transformative power of speculation in shaping the nation's destiny. The birth of a market, early real estate transactions and trends. As the colonial era gave way to the birth of a nation, the once informal system of land transactions began to evolve into a more structured and recognizable real estate market. The rise of newspapers, improved communication networks, and the establishment of local courthouses facilitated the buying, selling, and recording of land deeds, laying the groundwork for a more transparent and organized real estate industry. Real estate brokers, though far less common than today, emerged as intermediaries, connecting buyers and sellers and facilitating transactions. Auctions, often held on courthouse steps or in town squares, became popular venues for land sales, with spirited bidding wars erupting as investors and settlers vied for prime properties. Newspapers, increasingly accessible to the masses, carried advertisements for land sales, showcasing glowing descriptions and often exaggerated claims of a property's potential. Several factors influenced land values and trends during this era. Proximity to navigable waterways, access to transportation routes, soil fertility, and the presence of natural resources all played a role in determining a property's worth. As towns and cities grew, so too did the value of land within their boundaries, with commercial properties commanding higher prices than their residential counterparts. The concept of land ownership, once primarily associated with agricultural production, began to encompass a wider range of uses. Commercial properties, catering to the needs of a growing nation, sprung up in urban centers, while industrial sites, fueled by the rise of factories and manufacturing, became valuable commodities. The American real estate market, though still in its infancy, was evolving rapidly, reflecting the nation's own growth, ambition, and the ever-changing dynamics of a society in flux. A legacy forged in land, the enduring impact of early real estate. The legacy of early American real estate extends far beyond simple land transactions or the rise of a market. It is a legacy intertwined with the very fabric of the nation, shaping its identity, its economy, and its social structure in profound and lasting ways. From the earliest colonial settlements to the westward expansion that fueled its growth, the story of American real estate is inseparable from the story of America itself. The concept of land ownership, deeply ingrained in the American psyche, became a cornerstone of its democratic ideals. The right to own property, once a privilege reserved for the elite in many parts of the world, became accessible to a wider swath of society in America, fostering a spirit of individualism, self-reliance, and upward mobility. The dream of owning a home, a tangible symbol of success and security, became a driving force for generations of Americans, shaping their aspirations, their work ethic, and their vision for the future. The development of the American real estate market, from its informal beginnings in the colonial era to the more structured system that emerged in the 19th century, laid the groundwork for the complex and dynamic industry we know today. It established the legal frameworks, the financial instruments, and the cultural norms that continue to shape how we buy, sell, and value property. As we marvel at the soaring skyscrapers, sprawling suburbs, and bustling commercial districts that define the modern American landscape, it's essential to remember the roots from which this real estate behemoth sprung. It is a legacy forged in the sweat and toil of early settlers, shaped by the ambition of land speculators, and fueled by the enduring belief in property ownership as a path to prosperity and a cornerstone of the American dream. The story of American real estate, a story of opportunity, exploitation, innovation, and resilience, continues to unfold today, a testament to the enduring power of land to shape our nation's destiny. The rise of the city, the latter half of the 19th century, witnessed a profound shift in the American landscape as the Industrial Revolution, once a distant rumble on the horizon, roared into full force. Factories, fueled by coal and powered by steam, sprung up across the nation, drawing millions of Americans from rural communities to urban centers in search of employment and a piece of the burgeoning prosperity. Cities, once relatively small and compact, swelled in size and population, their boundaries expanding outward as they struggled to accommodate the influx of new arrivals. This unprecedented urban growth had a seismic impact on the real estate market. Land values in city centers skyrocketed as demand for commercial and residential properties reached unprecedented levels. Factories needed space for production, businesses needed storefronts and offices, and the burgeoning workforce needed housing. The once clear distinction between urban and rural real estate began to blur, as the economic and social forces unleashed by industrialization reshaped the very fabric of American society. The rise of the city brought with it new challenges and opportunities for the real estate industry. Developers, recognizing the immense profit potential of urban growth, embarked on ambitious projects, constructing multi-story buildings, laying out new streets, and subdividing land into smaller and smaller parcels to maximize their returns. The concept of density, once foreign to a nation accustomed to sprawling farmlands, became an economic necessity as cities struggled to accommodate their rapidly growing populations. This era of rapid urbanization also witnessed the emergence of new architectural styles, building techniques, and infrastructure projects that would forever alter the face of American cities. The humble brick walk-up, once the mainstay of urban housing, gave way to larger, more ornate apartment buildings designed to accommodate a growing middle class. Public transportation systems such as horse-drawn trams and later electric streetcars extended the reach of the city, allowing residents to live further from their workplaces and fueling the development of new neighborhoods on the urban periphery. Section 2. Steel and Steam Reshaping the Urban Landscape. The Industrial Revolution was not merely a period of economic transformation, it was a technological revolution that fundamentally altered the way we built and inhabited our cities. The advent of new materials such as mass-produced steel and reinforced concrete allowed architects and engineers to design buildings of unprecedented height and complexity, pushing the boundaries of what was structurally possible. The invention of the passenger elevator, a seemingly mundane contraption, proved to be a game changer, liberating buildings from the constraints of gravity and paving the way for the vertical cities of the future. Railroads, the arteries of the industrial age, played a pivotal role in shaping the urban landscape. Rail lines, once confined to the outskirts of cities, snaked their way into the heart of urban centers, bringing with them goods, people, and economic opportunity. Warehouses, factories, and shipping yards sprung up along these rail corridors, transforming once quiet neighborhoods into bustling industrial hubs. The air, once filled with the sounds of nature and human activity, now carried the hiss of steam engines, the clang of machinery, and the rumble of freight cars, a constant reminder of the transformative power of industrial progress. This confluence of technological innovation and industrial might had a profound impact on real estate values and development patterns. Land near rail lines and transportation hubs became incredibly valuable, as businesses sought to capitalize on the efficient movement of goods and people. Factories, once sprawling complexes on the urban periphery, began to cluster closer to city centers, drawn by the availability of labor, transportation, and infrastructure. The urban landscape, once a relatively homogeneous mix of residential, commercial, and industrial uses, began to fragment into distinct zones, each shaped by the economic forces of the industrial age. This period of rapid industrialization and urban growth also brought with it new challenges, as cities struggled to cope with the influx of new residents and the environmental consequences of unchecked industrial expansion. Pollution, overcrowding, and inadequate sanitation became serious concerns, leading to public health crises and social unrest. The real estate industry, often accused of prioritizing profit over the well-being of residents, faced growing pressure to address these issues, laying the groundwork for the urban planning movements and housing reforms of the 20th century. Section 3. The birth of the skyscraper, reaching for new heights. As cities swelled in population and land values in their cores soared to unprecedented heights, architects and developers faced a common dilemma: how to maximize the use of limited and increasingly expensive urban space. The answer, as it turned out, lay not in expanding outward, but in building upward. The skyscraper, a revolutionary concept that would forever alter the skylines of cities around the world, was born out of this need to accommodate growth within a finite footprint. The first skyscrapers, made possible by the strength of steel frames and the invention of the passenger elevator, were marvels of engineering and architectural ingenuity. No longer constrained by the limitations of load-bearing walls, buildings could now soar to dizzying heights, their multiple floors housing a mix of offices, shops, and in some cases, even residential apartments. Cities like Chicago and New York, at the forefront of this architectural revolution, witnessed a forest of steel and glass rise from their midst, each new skyscraper a testament to human ambition and the transformative power of technology. The skyscraper boom had a profound impact on the real estate market, as the value of land in central business districts reached astronomical levels. Businesses, eager to secure a prestigious address in these towering symbols of progress, competed fiercely for office space, driving up rents and fueling a speculative frenzy. The skyscraper, once a daring experiment, had become a coveted asset, a symbol of economic might, and a powerful magnet for investment. However, the rise of the skyscraper also brought with it new challenges. Traffic congestion, already a growing concern in rapidly expanding cities, worsened as thousands of workers converged on these centralized office towers each day. The shadows cast by these behemoths darkened streets below, raising concerns about the loss of sunlight and the impact on public spaces. The skyscraper, while an undeniable symbol of urban progress, also highlighted the growing pains of a nation grappling with the consequences of its own rapid urbanization and the need for more thoughtful and equitable urban planning. Section 4. From country roads to city streets, the changing face of real estate. The Industrial Revolution didn't just change the skylines of American cities, it transformed the very fabric of urban life, altering the way people lived, worked, and interacted with their surroundings. The influx of new residents drawn from rural communities and foreign shores created a diverse and dynamic urban tapestry, but it also strained existing housing stock and social structures. The real estate market, responding to these changing demographics and economic forces, underwent a period of rapid evolution. as new housing types, neighborhoods, and investment opportunities emerged. The single-family detached home, once the dominant housing type in both rural and urban areas, became increasingly impractical in densely populated city centers. Row houses, townhouses, and multifamily apartment buildings, offering a more efficient use of limited land, became increasingly common, particularly in working-class neighborhoods. These tenements, as they were often called, varied widely in quality and amenities, with some offering decent living conditions while others were overcrowded, poorly maintained, and ripe for exploitation by unscrupulous landlords. As cities expanded outward, fueled by the growth of public transportation networks, new residential neighborhoods emerged on their peripheries. These suburbs, as they became known, offered a respite from the noise, grime, and congestion of the city center, appealing to a growing middle class seeking more space, cleaner air, and a sense of community. The suburban ideal, with its detached homes, manicured lawns, and tree-lined streets, began to take root in the American psyche, laying the groundwork for the suburban boom that would transform the nation's landscape in the decades to come. This period of rapid urbanization and real estate development also witnessed the emergence of new investment opportunities and financial instruments. Real estate investment trusts, which allowed individuals to invest in a diversified portfolio of properties, gained popularity, offering a way for ordinary citizens to participate in the booming real estate market. Mortgages, once primarily short-term loans with high interest rates, became more accessible and affordable, fueling homeownership and further driving demand for urban and suburban properties. The real estate market, once a relatively simple affair of individual transactions, was evolving into a complex and sophisticated industry, intertwined with the nation's financial system and shaping the economic fortunes of millions of Americans. The Roaring Twenties, a decade of unprecedented economic prosperity and cultural dynamism, witnessed a real estate boom unlike any other in American history. Flush with cash from wartime profits and fueled by a spirit of optimism and speculation, Americans embraced the stock market, danced the Charleston, and invested heavily in real estate, driving prices to dizzying heights. Cities, already experiencing rapid growth, boomed, their skylines transformed by Art Deco masterpieces, and their outskirts sprawling outward with new suburban developments. The rise of the automobile, a symbol of both technological progress and personal freedom, played a pivotal role in fueling the real estate boom of the 1920s. No longer tethered to fixed-route public transportation, Americans embraced the open road, seeking new homes and opportunities in the rapidly expanding suburbs. Developers, eager to capitalize on this newfound mobility, carved up farmland into subdivisions, offering affordable homes marketed as gateways to the American dream. The suburban ideal, once a distant aspiration for many, became attainable for a growing segment of the population, further fueling demand for single-family homes and driving up real estate values. The real estate boom, however, was not without its dark side. Speculation, fueled by easy credit and a belief that prices would rise indefinitely, ran rampant. Properties were bought and sold multiple times in a single day, often with little or no money down, inflating values far beyond their true worth. This speculative frenzy, while enriching some, created a bubble that was destined to burst, setting the stage for economic hardship and a dramatic reshaping of the real estate market. The stock market crash of 1929, a cataclysmic event that plunged the nation into the Great Depression, brought the Roaring Twenties to a screeching halt. The real estate market, inextricably linked to the health of the broader economy, collapsed alongside it. Values plummeted, foreclosures skyrocketed, and construction projects ground to a halt, leaving a trail of financial ruin and shattered dreams in its wake. The American dream, once seemingly within reach for so many, became a distant and elusive goal, as the nation grappled with the devastating consequences of economic collapse. The Great Depression, a period of economic hardship and social upheaval unlike any other in American history, cast a long shadow over the nation's real estate market. The collapse of the stock market in 1929 triggered a chain reaction that reverberated throughout the economy, leaving no industry untouched, least of all real estate. Values plummeted, foreclosures skyrocketed, and construction projects ground to a halt, as the nation grappled with mass unemployment, bank failures, and a pervasive sense of despair. The real estate boom of the 1920s, fueled by speculation and easy credit, had created a bubble that was unsustainable. When the bubble burst, it left millions of Americans underwater on their mortgages, owing more on their homes than they were worth. Banks, saddled with bad loans and facing a wave of withdrawals, failed at an alarming rate, further constricting credit and deepening the economic crisis. The construction industry, once a major engine of economic growth, ground to a virtual standstill as demand for new homes and commercial properties evaporated. The human toll of the Great Depression was immense. Millions of Americans lost their jobs, their homes, and their savings. Families were forced to move in with relatives or seek shelter in makeshift shantytowns known as Hoovervilles, a grim testament to the depths of the economic crisis. The dream of homeownership, once a cornerstone of the American dream, became out of reach for many, as the real estate market, once a symbol of prosperity and opportunity, became a stark reminder of the nation's economic fragility. The Great Depression forced a fundamental reassessment of the role of government in the economy, including its relationship with the real estate market. The federal government, under President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs, took unprecedented steps to stabilize the financial system, provide relief to struggling homeowners, and stimulate economic growth. These interventions, while controversial at the time, marked a turning point in American history, laying the groundwork for a more active role for government in regulating the financial system, providing housing assistance, and promoting economic opportunity for all Americans. The legacy of the Great Depression, with its stark lessons about the dangers of unchecked speculation, the importance of financial regulation, and the need for government intervention in times of crisis, continues to shape our understanding of the real estate market and its relationship to the broader economy. As the dust settled on the battlefields of World War II, a wave of returning veterans, eager to embrace peace and rebuild their lives, faced a daunting challenge: finding affordable housing and securing a stable future. The nation, still recovering from the economic devastation of the Great Depression, faced a severe housing shortage, particularly in urban areas where returning soldiers and their families sought to put down roots. In response to this pressing need, Congress enacted a landmark piece of legislation that would forever alter the American landscape and shape the destiny of its real estate market: the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, more commonly known as the GI Bill. The GI Bill, a testament to the nation's gratitude for the sacrifices made by its veterans, offered a suite of benefits designed to ease their transition back to civilian life, including access to education, job training, and, most significantly, low-interest, government-backed mortgages. These mortgages, with their low down payments and extended repayment terms, made homeownership, once a distant dream for many working-class Americans, a tangible reality. The GI Bill, in essence, democratized the American dream, opening the doors of homeownership to millions of veterans and their families, many of whom had never before considered it a possibility. The impact of the GI Bill on the real estate market was nothing short of seismic. Demand for housing, particularly in the suburbs, skyrocketed as veterans, eager to escape the crowded confines of city life and embrace the promise of spacious lawns, good schools, and a sense of community, flocked to newly developed subdivisions. Developers, recognizing the immense profit potential of this pent-up demand, scrambled to meet the needs of this new generation of homebuyers, transforming vast tracts of farmland into sprawling suburban landscapes. The GI Bill, while undeniably a force for good, also had unintended consequences that would shape the social and economic fabric of the nation for decades to come. The suburban housing boom it fueled, while providing much-needed housing for millions, also contributed to racial segregation, as discriminatory lending practices and restrictive covenants in many suburban communities made it difficult, if not impossible, for African American veterans to purchase homes in these predominantly white neighborhoods. The GI Bill, while a testament to the nation's commitment to its veterans, also exposed the deep-seated racial inequities that continued to plague American society. Section 2. The rise of Levittown mass production meets the American dream. As the demand for suburban housing surged in the post-war era, a new breed of developer emerged, one who saw the potential to apply the principles of mass production to the construction of homes, much like Henry Ford had done with automobiles. William Levitt, a visionary entrepreneur with a keen eye for efficiency and affordability, recognized the insatiable appetite for suburban homes and set out to revolutionize the home-building industry, one cookie-cutter house at a time. His creation, Levittown, a sprawling development on Long Island, New York, became synonymous with the post-war suburban boom and the rise of mass-produced housing. Levitt's genius lay in his ability to streamline the construction process, breaking down the building of a house into a series of standardized tasks that could be performed by unskilled labor using prefabricated materials. By applying the principles of assembly line production, Levitt was able to build homes at an astonishing rate, completing as many as 30 houses per day at the peak of Levittown's construction. These homes, while simple in design and nearly identical in appearance, were affordable, modern, and equipped with amenities that were considered luxurious for many working-class families at the time, such as indoor plumbing, appliances, and even a small patch of lawn. Levittown, while hailed by many as a symbol of the American dream made attainable, also drew criticism for its uniformity and its potential to stifle individuality. Critics argued that these mass-produced suburbs with their identical houses and carefully manicured lawns fostered a culture of conformity, discouraging creativity and self-expression. Others raised concerns about the environmental impact of such large-scale development, as vast tracts of farmland and forest were cleared to make way for these sprawling suburban communities. Despite the criticisms, Levittown, and the countless other mass-produced suburbs that sprung up across the nation in its wake, played a pivotal role in shaping the American landscape and the aspirations of its citizens. They provided affordable housing for millions, fueled the post-war economic boom, and solidified the suburban ideal, with its emphasis on homeownership, family life, and upward mobility, as a cornerstone of the American dream. Levittown, a testament to the transformative power of innovation and the enduring allure of homeownership, remains a potent symbol of both the promises and the pitfalls of the post-war suburban boom. Section 3. Highways and Homeownership, Connecting the Dots of a Mobile Nation. The post-war era witnessed not only a boom in housing construction but also a revolution in transportation that would forever alter the relationship between Americans and their automobiles. The Interstate Highway System, a massive infrastructure project championed by President Dwight D. Eisenhower, connected cities and states with a network of high-speed highways, facilitating the movement of goods, people, and ideas at an unprecedented scale. This newfound mobility, coupled with the affordability of automobiles, had a profound impact on the real estate market, fueling the growth of suburbs and reshaping the very fabric of American life. The Interstate Highway System, while initially conceived as a means of enhancing national defense and facilitating commerce, inadvertently unleashed a wave of suburbanization that would transform the American landscape. No longer tethered to city centers by the limitations of public transportation, Americans embraced the open road, seeking affordable housing and a better quality of life in the suburbs. The commute, once a dreaded daily ordeal, became more manageable, as highways slashed travel times and opened up new areas for residential development. The rise of the automobile and the expansion of the highway system had a profound impact on real estate values and development patterns. Land near highway interchanges and major thoroughfares became prime real estate, as businesses sought to capitalize on the increased traffic flow. Shopping malls, once confined to city centers, began to sprout up along suburban highways, offering a convenient and car-centric alternative to traditional downtown shopping districts. The American landscape, once a tapestry of distinct urban and rural areas, began to blur as suburbs sprawled outward, connected by a network of highways that facilitated the movement of people and goods at an unprecedented scale. This era of increased mobility and suburban growth, while liberating for many, also had unintended consequences. Cities, once vibrant centers of commerce and culture, struggled to cope with the loss of residents and businesses to the suburbs, as tax revenues declined and social services were stretched thin. The automobile, while offering freedom and convenience, also brought with it traffic congestion, air pollution, and a growing dependence on fossil fuels, issues that would continue to plague American society for decades to come. The post-war love affair with the automobile and the suburban lifestyle it enabled, while transformative in many ways, also planted the seeds of environmental and social challenges that would require new solutions in the decades to come. Section 4. A Nation of Homeowners, the Rise of the 30-Year Mortgage and FHA Loans. The post-war housing boom was fueled not only by government programs like the GI Bill, but also by innovations in the mortgage industry that made homeownership more accessible and affordable than ever before. The 30-year mortgage, a novel concept at the time, emerged as the standard loan product for homebuyers, replacing the previous norm of short-term, high-interest mortgages that were difficult to qualify for and even harder to repay. This shift towards long-term, fixed-rate mortgages, coupled with the creation of government-backed loan programs like the Federal Housing Administration, FHA, ushered in an era of unprecedented homeownership in America. The 30-year mortgage, with its fixed interest rate and predictable monthly payments, offered stability and peace of mind to borrowers, allowing them to budget for housing costs over an extended period. This predictability, coupled with low interest rates and the availability of FHA loans, which required lower down payments and less stringent credit checks, made homeownership attainable for millions of Americans who had previously been priced out of the market. The dream of owning a home, once reserved for the wealthy or those willing to take on significant financial risk, became a realistic goal for a growing segment of the population. The rise of the 30-year mortgage and the expansion of government-backed loan programs had a profound impact on the real estate market, fueling demand for housing and driving up property values. Banks, flush with deposits and eager to capitalize on the booming mortgage market, readily extended credit to qualified borrowers, further stimulating demand. The construction industry boomed as builders struggled to keep pace with the insatiable appetite for new homes, particularly in the rapidly expanding suburbs. This era of easy credit and widespread homeownership, while undoubtedly a period of economic prosperity for many, also carried within it the seeds of future challenges. The reliance on long-term fixed-rate mortgages made the housing market more susceptible to economic downturns, as homeowners locked into 30-year loans had less flexibility to adjust to changing financial circumstances. The emphasis on homeownership as a path to wealth and security, while a powerful motivator for many, also contributed to a culture of debt that would have long-term consequences for the American economy. The post-war dream of homeownership, while attainable for millions, was not without its complexities and potential pitfalls. Section 5, Seeds of Change, the Social and Economic Undercurrents of Suburban Growth. The post-war suburban boom, while often portrayed as a period of unparalleled prosperity and social harmony, was also a time of profound social and economic change, as traditional values and demographics were challenged by the forces of modernization, mobility, and a growing awareness of social inequalities. The suburbs, while offering a respite from the perceived ills of city life, were not immune to the social tensions and economic anxieties that simmered beneath the surface of American society. The rise of the suburbs coincided with a dramatic shift in demographics, as the baby boom generation, the largest generation in American history, came of age. This surge in population, coupled with the increasing affordability of automobiles and the expansion of the highway system, fueled the demand for suburban homes and shaped the cultural landscape of the nation. The suburbs became synonymous with family life, as young couples sought to provide their children with the space, safety, and educational opportunities they believed were essential for a successful future. The suburbanization of America, however, also contributed to the growing divide between the haves and the have-nots. While millions of middle-class Americans flocked to the suburbs, many inner-city neighborhoods, particularly those populated by African Americans and other minority groups, faced disinvestment, neglect, and a decline in economic opportunities. Discriminatory lending practices, known as redlining, made it difficult, if not impossible, for residents of these neighborhoods to secure mortgages, perpetuating racial segregation and economic inequality. The post-war suburban boom, while a period of economic expansion and social mobility for many, also laid bare the deep-seated racial and economic divisions that continued to plague American society. The suburbs, while often idealized as bastions of homogeneity and conformity, were not immune to the social and political upheavals that would come to define the latter half of the 20th century. The civil rights movement, the feminist movement, and the growing awareness of environmental issues all challenged the status quo, forcing a reassessment of the values and priorities that had shaped the post-war suburban ideal. The seeds of change, sown in the fertile ground of social and economic transformation, were beginning to sprout, challenging the very fabric of American society and hinting at the turbulent decades to come. Section 1. From Malaise to Mania, the volatile backdrop of the 1970s. The 1970s dawned with a hangover from the post-war boom, as the American economy grappled with a confluence of challenges that would test its resilience and reshape its trajectory. The seemingly unstoppable engine of growth that had propelled the nation to new heights of prosperity in the decades following World War II began to sputter, beset by rising inflation, soaring energy prices, and growing competition from abroad. The real estate market, once a symbol of unwavering upward mobility, found itself buffeted by these economic headwinds, its trajectory uncertain as the nation navigated a period of profound change and uncertainty. The oil crises of 1973 and 1979, triggered by geopolitical turmoil in the Middle East, sent shockwaves through the global economy as the price of crude oil, the lifeblood of modern industrial societies, skyrocketed. These energy shocks fueled inflation, as the cost of transportation, manufacturing, and everyday goods soared, eroding consumer purchasing power and creating a climate of economic anxiety. The American dream, once seemingly within reach for so many, began to feel increasingly elusive, as families struggled to make ends meet, and the promise of upward mobility seemed to slip further out of reach. The real estate market, reflecting the broader economic malaise, entered a period of stagnation and uncertainty. Mortgage interest rates, once relatively stable and affordable, began to climb, as lenders sought to protect themselves from the erosive effects of inflation. The cost of construction materials, driven up by energy price hikes, made new home building more expensive, further dampening demand. The suburban housing boom, which had propelled the real estate market to new heights in the decades following World War II, began to lose steam, as families, faced with economic uncertainty and rising housing costs, delayed or abandoned their dreams of homeownership. Yet, amidst the economic turmoil and social anxieties of the 1970s, seeds of change were being sown that would ultimately reshape the real estate market and set the stage for the boom years to come. The deregulation of the financial industry, a gradual process that gained momentum throughout the decade, would ultimately unleash new sources of capital and create new investment opportunities in real estate. The rise of globalization, as international trade and investment barriers began to fall, would create new markets for American goods and services, attracting foreign investment and further fueling economic growth. The 1970s, while a period of economic hardship and uncertainty for many, also laid the groundwork for the transformative changes that would reshape the real estate market and the broader American economy in the decades to come. Section 2. The Reagan Revolution, Unleashing the Forces of Deregulation. The election of Ronald Reagan as president in 1980 marked a turning point in American economic policy, ushering in an era of deregulation, tax cuts, and a renewed emphasis on free market principles that would have a profound impact on the real estate market and the broader economy. Reagan, a charismatic communicator with a deep-seated belief in the power of the private sector, argued that government overreach and excessive regulation were stifling economic growth and vowed to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit of the nation. His policies, while controversial and often criticized for exacerbating income inequality, ignited a period of economic expansion that would come to be known as the Reagan Revolution. One of the cornerstones of Reaganomics, as his economic policies were dubbed, was the deregulation of the financial industry. Reagan argued that excessive government regulation was stifling innovation, limiting competition, and increasing costs for consumers. His administration dismantled regulations that had been in place since the Great Depression, such as the Glass-Steagall Act, which had separated commercial banking from investment banking and eased restrictions on lending practices, making it easier for banks to extend credit to businesses and individuals. These deregulation measures, coupled with tax cuts that disproportionately benefited corporations and high-income earners, unleashed a torrent of capital into the economy, much of which found its way into the real estate market. Developers, flush with cash and eager to capitalize on the favorable economic climate, embarked on ambitious projects, constructing office towers, shopping malls, and luxury condominiums at a breakneck pace. The demand for commercial real estate, driven by a surge in corporate profits and a growing economy, soared, pushing up property values and attracting investors from around the globe. The Reagan Revolution, while credited with revitalizing the American economy and ushering in a period of sustained economic growth, also had its downsides. The deregulation of the financial industry, while intended to spur innovation and competition, also created an environment ripe for risky lending practices and speculative excesses that would ultimately contribute to future financial crises. The tax cuts, while providing a boost to the economy in the short term, also led to a widening gap between the rich and the poor, exacerbating income inequality and sowing the seeds of social unrest. The Reagan era, while a time of economic boom and renewed optimism, also laid bare the inherent tensions between unfettered capitalism and the need for government regulation to ensure fairness, stability, and long-term economic sustainability. The 1980s saw commercial real estate emerge as a global asset class, attracting billions in investment. Deregulation and new financial instruments transformed the sector, creating opportunities and risks. American skylines were reshaped by new skyscrapers, symbols of corporate power. Shopping malls and entertainment complexes flourished, reflecting the nation's consumerist ethos. However, speculative excesses and easy credit led to questionable projects and inflated prices. The seeds of future economic hardship were sown amidst the boom. The 1980s, marked by economic expansion and income inequality, transformed the real estate market. Deregulation and globalization brought new capital but also risky lending and speculative excesses. The boom enriched developers but led to an oversupply of office space and malls. The late 1980s slowdown revealed high vacancy rates and plummeting property values. The savings and loan crisis, fueled by risky real estate lending, resulted in federal bailouts. The era highlighted the cyclical nature of markets and the need for responsible regulation. The 1990s began with cautious optimism as the economy recovered from the 1980s excesses. The end of the Cold War and technological innovation reshaped the economic landscape. The internet boom ignited entrepreneurial activity and investment, driving the stock market to new heights. Demand for office space in tech-heavy markets surged, leading to rising rents and property values. The construction industry revived, catering to the digital economy's needs. However, speculation and easy credit led to inflated valuations and potential market corrections. Warning signs of a painful correction began to emerge beneath the surface. The dot-com bubble, driven by tech innovation and speculative excess, peaked in the late 1990s. Companies with little revenue saw valuations skyrocket, fueled by investor euphoria. Real estate and tech hubs saw soaring office rents and rapid construction. The bubble burst in the early 2000s, crashing the stock market and the tech sector. Real estate proved resilient, with only moderate declines in office rents and vacancy rates. The construction industry faced a sharp downturn as projects became unviable. The dot-com bust highlighted the dangers of speculation and market cycles. Post-dot-com bust, the economy showed signs of life with low interest rates and tax cuts. The real estate market, benefiting from favorable conditions, ignited a housing boom. Mortgage lenders loosened standards, making it easier for borrowers to qualify. Adjustable-rate mortgages replaced fixed-rate ones, leading to risky borrowing. The housing market became a speculative frenzy, driving prices to unsustainable levels. The boom created a bubble with devastating consequences when it burst. The housing boom's dark side emerged with the rise of subprime lending. Subprime borrowers, once deemed too risky, were welcomed by new lenders. Wall Street bundled risky loans into mortgage-backed securities, sold globally. Ratings agencies falsely assured investors of these securities' safety. Delinquency rates on subprime mortgages rose, revealing the market's fragility. The stage was set for a financial reckoning, exposing unchecked greed and speculation. The year 2008 will forever be etched in the annals of financial history, as the year the music stopped, and the bill came due for the excesses of the housing bubble. The subprime mortgage crisis, which had been simmering beneath the surface of the seemingly invincible American economy, erupted with a vengeance, triggering a chain reaction of financial panic and economic devastation that would reverberate around the globe. The real estate market, once a symbol of the American dream and a cornerstone of the nation's wealth, found itself at the epicenter of this global financial earthquake, its foundations shattered by the collapse of the subprime mortgage market and the ensuing credit crunch. As delinquency rates on subprime mortgages soared and foreclosures spread like wildfire across the nation, the value of mortgage-backed securities, those complex financial instruments that had been peddled to investors around the world as safe and profitable investments, plummeted. Banks and financial institutions, saddled with billions of dollars in toxic assets they couldn't unload, found themselves on the brink of collapse, their lending activities frozen by fear and uncertainty. The credit markets, the lifeblood of the global economy, seized up, as lenders, uncertain of who to trust or where the next shoe would drop, refused to extend credit, even to credit-worthy borrowers. The American economy, already weakened by years of profligate spending, unsustainable debt levels, and a growing trade deficit, plunged into the worst recession since the Great Depression. Unemployment soared, businesses shuttered their doors, and the stock market, once a symbol of American prosperity, lost trillions of dollars in value in a matter of months. The real estate market, which had fueled the boom years with its seemingly endless supply of easy credit and ever-increasing home values, now led the way down. As home prices plummeted, foreclosures reached epidemic proportions, and the dream of homeownership turned into a nightmare for millions of Americans. The global economy, inextricably linked to the fortunes of the United States, was dragged down by the maelstrom of the American financial crisis. Banks and financial institutions around the world, holding billions of dollars in toxic American mortgage-backed securities, found themselves on the brink of collapse, forcing governments to intervene with massive bailouts and unprecedented monetary easing measures in a desperate attempt to avert a complete financial meltdown. The world watched in disbelief as the seemingly invincible American economy teetered on the edge of the abyss, a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of the global financial system and the folly of unchecked greed and speculation. The crash of 2008, a reckoning long in the making, would have profound and lasting consequences for the real estate market, the American economy, and the global financial system, ushering in an era of increased regulation, heightened risk aversion, and a newfound appreciation for the importance of sustainable economic growth. The year 2020 dawned with a sense of cautious optimism. The global economy, still recovering from the aftershocks of the 2008 financial crisis, seemed to be on firmer footing. The American real estate market, after a period of painful adjustment and deleveraging, had regained its footing, with home prices rising steadily and construction activity picking up. But the world was about to be blindsided by an event of such magnitude that it would fundamentally alter the course of history and reshape the very fabric of our lives. The COVID-19 pandemic. The novel coronavirus, first detected in Wuhan, China, in late 2019, spread rapidly across the globe, its invisible tendrils reaching every corner of the planet, bringing with it not only a devastating public health crisis, but also an economic shockwave of unprecedented scale. Governments, caught off guard by the speed and ferocity of the virus's spread, implemented lockdowns, travel restrictions, and social distancing measures in a desperate attempt to slow the contagion and protect their healthcare systems from being overwhelmed. The global economy, already fragile from years of anemic growth and high debt levels, ground to a virtual standstill. The real estate market, a bellwether of economic activity and a reflection of our deepest anxieties and aspirations, found itself at the epicenter of this global disruption. Offices emptied out as companies, forced to adapt to the new realities of a global pandemic, embraced remote work on an unprecedented scale. Schools and universities shifted to online learning, leaving parents scrambling to balance work and childcare responsibilities. Restaurants, bars, and retail stores, once vibrant hubs of social interaction and economic activity, shuttered their doors, their empty storefronts a stark reminder of the economic toll the pandemic was taking. The uncertainty and fear that gripped the nation in the early days of the pandemic cast a long shadow over the real estate market. Would this be a repeat of the 2008 financial crisis, with plummeting home values, mass foreclosures, and a collapse of the construction industry? Or would the real estate market, as it had in previous crises, prove to be more resilient, adapting to the new realities of a world reshaped by a global pandemic? The answers to these questions, as it turned out, would be both complex and surprising, revealing the enduring appeal of real estate as an investment, the adaptability of the market, and the profound ways in which the pandemic would reshape our relationship with our homes, our workplaces, and our communities. As the pandemic unfolded, and the initial shock of lockdowns and economic uncertainty began to subside, a new reality began to emerge, one that would have profound implications for the real estate market: the rise of remote work. Companies, forced to adapt to the new realities of a world where in-person collaboration was no longer a given, embraced remote work on an unprecedented scale, discovering that productivity could be maintained and even enhanced with employees working from home. This newfound flexibility, coupled with the desire to escape the perceived dangers and density of urban centers, led to a mass exodus from major cities as residents, no longer tethered to their offices, sought out more space, affordability, and a better quality of life. The traditional patterns of urban migration, which had long favored the growth of major metropolitan areas, were upended as the pandemic shifted the geography of demand. Suburbs, once seen as sleepy bedroom communities for commuters, experienced a resurgence in popularity, their promise of larger homes, more green space, and a greater sense of community resonating with those fleeing the confines of city life. Smaller cities and towns, particularly those with strong amenities, natural beauty, and a lower cost of living, also witnessed an influx of new residents. As remote workers sought out a more balanced and affordable lifestyle, this shift in demand, fueled by the rise of remote work and the desire for more space and affordability, had a profound impact on the real estate market. Home prices in suburban and rural areas, once relatively stagnant, began to rise at a rapid clip as buyers, flush with cash from stimulus checks and savings accumulated during lockdowns, competed fiercely for a limited supply of homes for sale. Inventory levels plummeted, bidding wars became commonplace, and the once sleepy suburbs found themselves at the epicenter of a real estate boom unlike anything they had seen before. This exodus from major cities and the accompanying surge in demand for suburban and rural properties, however, was not without its challenges. Many smaller communities, ill-equipped to handle a sudden influx of new residents, faced strains on their infrastructure, schools, and healthcare systems. The affordability gap, already a major issue in many urban areas, widened, as those who could not afford to relocate to more desirable locations were left behind, exacerbating existing inequalities. The pandemic, while reshaping the geography of demand and creating new opportunities in some areas, also highlighted the deep-seated challenges of affordability, infrastructure, and equitable access that continue to plague the American real estate market. Section 3. A Tale of Two Markets: Residential Real Estate Soars, Commercial Real Estate Adapts. The COVID-19 pandemic created a tale of two real estate markets, one characterized by soaring demand, limited supply, and record-breaking price growth, the other by uncertainty, adaptation, and a reassessment of fundamental values. Residential real estate, buoyed by low interest rates, a shift in demand towards suburban and rural areas, and a shortage of inventory, experienced a boom unlike anything seen in recent history. Commercial real estate, on the other hand, faced an existential crisis as lockdowns and the rise of remote work emptied out offices, hotels, and retail spaces, forcing landlords, investors, and developers to rethink the very nature of their business. The residential real estate market, fueled by a perfect storm of low mortgage rates, high demand, and limited supply, became a hotbed of competition, as buyers, armed with pre-approvals and eager to secure a piece of the American dream, engaged in bidding wars, waived contingencies, and paid well above asking price for properties that met their needs. The median home price in the United States, which had been hovering around $375,000 prior to the pandemic, soared to over $500,000 by 2024, a testament to the unprecedented demand and the shrinking supply of homes for sale. The construction industry, caught off guard by this surge in demand, struggled to keep pace, as labor shortages, supply chain disruptions, and rising material costs hampered efforts to increase inventory levels. The commercial real estate market, on the other hand, faced a reckoning as the pandemic forced a reassessment of the very nature of work, shopping, and leisure. Office buildings, once symbols of corporate power and economic might, stood largely empty, as companies, having discovered the cost savings and productivity benefits of remote work, embraced hybrid work models, or abandoned their leases altogether. Retail stores, already struggling to compete with the rise of e-commerce, faced an existential crisis as lockdowns and social distancing measures kept shoppers at home. Hotels, convention centers, and tourism-dependent businesses saw their revenues evaporate overnight as travel restrictions and fear of infection brought the travel industry to its knees. The commercial real estate market, faced with this unprecedented disruption, was forced to adapt or die. Office landlords, faced with rising vacancy rates and declining rents, offered concessions, flexible lease terms, and tenant improvement allowances in an effort to attract and retain tenants. Retail spaces were repurposed as fulfillment centers, ghost kitchens, or co-working spaces, reflecting the changing needs of a consumer base increasingly reliant on e-commerce and the gig economy. Hotels, desperate for revenue, pivoted to long-term stays, remote work retreats, or even temporary housing for essential workers. The pandemic, while devastating for some sectors of the commercial real estate market, also forced a wave of innovation and adaptation, as landlords, investors, and developers sought to redefine the value proposition of their assets in a world reshaped by the pandemic. Section 4. The new math of value, a perfect storm of low rates, high demand, and limited supply. The extraordinary rise in residential real estate values in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic was driven by a confluence of factors that created a perfect storm of low interest rates, high demand, and limited supply. The Federal Reserve, in response to the economic shockwaves of the pandemic, slashed interest rates to near zero and injected trillions of dollars into the financial system, making credit more accessible and affordable than ever before. This, coupled with a flight to safety among investors seeking a haven from the volatility of the stock market, pushed mortgage rates to historic lows, making homeownership more attainable for millions of Americans and fueling a surge in demand for housing. This surge in demand, however, collided with a shrinking supply of homes for sale, as homeowners, reluctant to sell in a time of uncertainty or content to sit tight in their low interest rate mortgages, held onto their properties. The construction industry, still recovering from the aftershocks of the 2008 housing crisis and hampered by labor shortages, supply chain disruptions, and rising material costs, struggled to keep pace with this surge in demand, further exacerbating the inventory shortage. This imbalance between supply and demand, coupled with the psychological impact of the pandemic, which had led many to reevaluate their housing needs and prioritize space, affordability, and a sense of community, fueled a frenzy of competition in the housing market. Bidding wars became commonplace, with buyers offering tens of thousands of dollars over asking price, waiving contingencies, and making all-cash offers in an effort to secure a property in a market where inventory was scarce and demand was insatiable. The median home price in the United States, which had been rising steadily for several years prior to the pandemic, experienced a meteoric rise, soaring to $49.7 trillion by 2024, a testament to the unprecedented demand and the shrinking supply of homes for sale. The commercial real estate market, while facing its own set of challenges in the wake of the pandemic, also benefited from this low interest rate environment and the influx of capital seeking a safe haven. Investors, seeking higher yields than those offered by bonds or money market accounts, poured billions of dollars into commercial real estate, particularly in sectors that were seen as resilient to the pandemic, such as industrial properties, data centers, and life sciences buildings. The office sector, while facing headwinds from the rise of remote work, also attracted investment from those who believed that the flight to quality would benefit well-located, amenity-rich buildings that could cater to the needs of a post-pandemic workforce. The pandemic, while disrupting traditional patterns of real estate investment, also created new opportunities for those willing to adapt to the changing needs of tenants and investors, as the market sought to rebalance itself in a world still grappling with the long-term consequences of a global health crisis. Section 1. The Evolving Landscape. Navigating Uncertainty and Embracing Innovation. Gazing into the crystal ball of the future, the American real estate landscape shimmers with both promise and uncertainty. The tectonic plates of technology, demographics, and climate change are shifting beneath our feet, reshaping the very foundations upon which we live, work, and invest. The COVID-19 pandemic, while accelerating existing trends, has also injected a new level of volatility and unpredictability into the equation, forcing us to rethink long-held assumptions about the nature of work, the appeal of urban living, and the very definition of value in real estate. Artificial intelligence, once the stuff of science fiction, is rapidly becoming a reality, with the potential to revolutionize every aspect of the real estate industry. From AI-powered property valuations that leverage vast data sets to predict future market trends to smart homes that anticipate our needs and optimize energy consumption, AI is poised to transform how we buy, sell, manage, and experience real estate. The rise of virtual and augmented reality, while still in its early stages, holds the potential to further blur the lines between the physical and digital worlds, allowing prospective buyers to tour properties remotely, architects to design immersive virtual spaces, and city planners to model the impact of development projects before a single brick is laid. Climate change, the defining challenge of our time, is casting a long shadow over the real estate industry, forcing us to confront the vulnerability of our built environment to rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and resource scarcity. Coastal communities already grappling with the impacts of climate change face an uncertain future, as rising sea levels threaten to inundate waterfront properties and displace millions. The demand for climate-resilient construction, energy-efficient buildings, and sustainable development practices is likely to surge, as investors, tenants, and homeowners prioritize environmental sustainability and seek to mitigate their exposure to climate risks. Demographic shifts, both within the United States and globally, will continue to reshape the real estate landscape. The aging of the baby boomer generation, the largest generation in American history, will create both challenges and opportunities as a wave of retirees seek out downsized homes, retirement communities, and healthcare facilities. The rise of millennials and Generation Z, digital natives with different values and priorities than previous generations, will further shape demand for urban living, co-living spaces, and amenity-rich communities that cater to their desire for connectivity, convenience, and a sense of purpose. Section 2. The enduring legacy real estate's pivotal role in shaping the American dream. Despite the uncertainties that lie ahead, one thing remains clear. Real estate will continue to play a pivotal role in shaping the American dream, both in its traditional form of homeownership and in its evolving manifestations of community sustainability and investment. The desire for a place to call home, a sanctuary from the outside world, and a legacy to pass on to future generations remains deeply ingrained in the American psyche, transcending generations and economic cycles. The concept of homeownership, while evolving to reflect the changing demographics, lifestyles, and economic realities of the 21st century, will continue to be a cornerstone of the American dream. The rise of remote work, while challenging traditional notions of the suburbs as bedroom communities, has also created new opportunities for homebuyers to prioritize space, affordability, and a better work-life balance. The increasing focus on sustainability, driven by both environmental concerns and a desire for lower operating costs, is likely to reshape the design, construction, and marketing of homes as energy efficiency, renewable energy sources, and eco-friendly materials become increasingly desirable features. The real estate industry, ever adaptable and responsive to the forces of change, will continue to innovate, evolve, and find new ways to create value for investors, tenants, and homeowners. The rise of PropTech, the intersection of real estate and technology, is already transforming how we buy, sell, finance, and manage properties, creating new efficiencies, transparency, and opportunities for those who embrace innovation. The growing focus on social impact investing, driven by a desire to align investments with values, is likely to further reshape the real estate landscape, as developers and investors prioritize projects that promote affordable housing, sustainable communities, and equitable access to opportunity. The story of American real estate, a story of ambition, ingenuity, resilience, and at times excess, is far from over. As we navigate the uncharted waters of the 21st century, facing challenges both familiar and unprecedented, real estate will continue to be a reflection of our values, our aspirations, and our enduring belief in the power of place to shape our lives and our communities. The American dream, ever evolving yet eternally resonant, will continue to be written, brick by brick, deal by deal, and dream by dream, in the ever-changing landscape of American real estate.